Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to build my favorite character, the Paladin. Everything from early game gearing and leveling progression to the spells, perks and abilities that define this playstyle. This is Lorerim. So before we begin our journey, what exactly is a Paladin? Typically in RPGs, these are holy warriors of faith. In the Elder Scrolls, best example could be the Vigilance of Stendarr, or the Divine Crusader. This build excels at staying alive, and resource sustain. It's versatile and excels in the early, mid and end game. For this build to work in the early game, you must play as a Breton, for its magic resistance and spell absorption. When speaking to the statue, as a starting location, choose to own the Breezehome property in Whiterun. Before you head there, however, open up your inventory and select the medical history item to activate the trait system. From here we'll select 1 benefit and 3 detriments. The benefit is 40% magical resistance. Trait 2 and 3 are detriments which forbid the use of axes and daggers, and finally trait 4 will be stunted growth, which reduces our overall regeneration of resources. With how our build works, none of the detriments really hurt our build and we gain a huge defensive buff. In the powers menu you'll have a one-time use power selection for Birth Sign. We're going to go with Atronach for 300 extra mana and 50% spell absorption. Everything tied together from Breton passives and everything else we've just done gives us 60% flat magical resistance and 60 spell absorption, which is absolutely bonkers. Once you've spawned into Breezehome, loot everything of value and read any books that you can for some extra XP. We picked this location so that we're quite close to our next destination, but also for a financial head start, especially from this save by the desk here. Once you've looted what you can, we head over to Belethor's General Goods and grab a basic camp and a backpack. Then it's off to Dragon's Reach to pick up a cheeky spell tome that allows us to read books in an AoE radius. This spell is going to get us from level 1 to 7 before even needing to consider combat. Spam the spell around the main hall and the Jarl's chambers before heading to join the companions and reading everything in the lower levels as well. Barcus gives you a brawl mission which is always someone in Whiterun, to begin with at least. Do this and hand it in before heading to the College of Winterhold. Read and take absolutely everything that you can around the main hall before heading upstairs to do the same and spend some spell vouchers given to you by joining the college. We need to pick up fast healing and recuperate. And now it's time to finally level up. If you follow my steps, you should be level 7 at this point. It's important that you dump everything into Magicka and that Restoration, Alteration and Heavy Armor are skill level 40 by level 7. I tend to level up all at once at this stage at the college. We want these 3 skills to be level 40 because our level 9 goal is level 50 in Restoration, Alteration and Heavy Armor. And we want to spend our level 8 and 9 skill points on Adept Restoration, Combat Trance in Heavy Armor. This is to avoid spell cost penalties while wearing heavy armor, and is essential to what we're going to be doing. So we're setting a foundation here, and we want to save that level 8 perk point for level 9. So our first perk is Novice Restoration. Our spells of choice are going to be Circle of Strength and Consecrate Dead. These are both essential for our resource management early on. It's important that we take Conditioning, Relentless Onslaught, and Combat Casting to avoid all the penalties that come with wearing heavy armor. This left side of the tree is essential for maintaining your mana. Next is Apprentice Restoration. Our spells of choice are going to be Leech Seed and Mystic Wind. Mystic Wind is a set it and forget it buff that you want active at all times, and Leech Seed is so strong and life-saving at this low level that it's a no-brainer to take. I'll show you how it works in greater detail a little bit later on the video, but trust me, you're going to want to take this one. Then let's take Novice Alteration. Our spells of choice here are a little bit up to you, as we're just laying the foundation for what's to come later, but I would recommend Oak Flesh and Candlelight. Then straight after, let's take the Apprentice Alteration perk with a build essential spell choice of Okato's Recital. This has been nerfed from the original 3 spells being stored to 1. To get the second and third spells stored, you're going to need Expert and Master, and we also take Featherfall as an optional choice here. Lastly, we take one-handed perks to get some much needed damage, as this build is heavily defensive early on, but lacks a little in raw damage power. You can get a step ahead by buying from 12th tier the Adept Alteration spell Spelltwine and set this with Heal on Recuperate. Now it's time to get our starter gear, head to Fort Dawnguard and force the quest to start. Then head to the Hall of the Vigilance, which is here on the map. You can get there from Dawnstar and then just run down. It's destroyed by the Vampire Menace, but it does leave a lot of vigilance with some great early on enchanted heavy armor gear. Sometimes they can drop really good spells and jewelry, but do not miss Adric's Scepter, a spell located here. With the Hall of your Vigilant Brothers decimated, it's on us to get stronger and deliver vengeance and mercy. Let's first set off to Riverwood and head to Embershard Mine as our testing ground for our newly set up build as we leap towards our next milestone. Just a quick spell check that you have all of these at level 7 before you go to Embershard Mine. If you've missed any of these outside of Adric's Scepter, you can get them all at the college if need be. During your time at Embershard Mine, it's likely that you will hit level 8. Just really important reminder again, save your level 8 perk point. We need this for our next level up so that we have 2 perk points available for that next breakpoint. Begin your engagements with Leech Seed to ensure that you have some passive healing and damage over time. This can even bring you back from down states with negative health. Always maintain a proc of this on an enemy. Recuperate is a channeled spell that replenishes stamina, and if you applied Spelltwine's heal, it will also apply a heal over time. The footage here is without Spelltwine's healing over time. I actually didn't want to take it until later on for testing purposes, but if you want to purchase Spelltwine, this will be even stronger. Consecrate Dead is our main source of mana regen at level 7 and is cast on dead enemies to replenish both mana and health. Make sure that you loot the enemies before doing so, as bodies are destroyed after casting. This green ringed AoE is Circle of Strength. It allows you to passively absorb stamina from anyone within the ring. Place this in choke points to be the most effective, and maintaining Leech Seed stacks while using Recuperate and this Circle of Strength will make sure that you have enough stamina and enough health regen to withstand large groups of enemies, like the example shows here. Having your spells easily accessible on Wheeler or hotkeys definitely helps, as you'll be swapping between spells depending on the situation all the time and maintaining your buffs and debuffs. Once you've got this playstyle down and you've gone through Embershard Mine and cleared it, you should be level 8. Last reminder, do not spend your level 8 perk point. We're going to need to keep it, but try and push your Restoration, Alteration and Heavy Armor to the highest that they can go for now, and dump that into Magicka. Now that we're level 8, head up to Bleak Falls and make sure that you pick up the Silver Katana located in the first room. Use the Firebolt scroll on the table to chunk down the spider boss a bit before setting up your choke point and bait and blocking the spider using your katana to slice down its health. It's important that you keep blocking between strikes, as one bite from this thing can paralyze you on the floor, and we don't want that. This fight can be incredibly tricky. I'd recommend placing a camp down away from the boss and resting so that you've got a spawn point quite close should you fail the first try. Learn the rhythm of the spider's attacks and maintain your buffs. Stand your ground. This fight is important, because once slain, you'll experience our first big power spike as our build reaches level 9. And before you get too excited, make sure that the poison isn't about to kill you, and just do a cheeky heal before you go and level up to level 9. It's time we hit our first breakpoint of level 50 in Heavy Armor, Restoration and Alteration, so be sure to get them all to 50 and then once again dump stat into Magicka. For perk points, it's time to spend 1 on Adept Restoration. Our spells of choice are going to be Tree Rings and Circle of Moons. The latter is how we're going to maintain our mana from now on, paired with Consecrate Ground when we need to. As for Tree Rings, we cast this automatically with Okato's Recital. So you want Tree Rings in your left hand, Okato's Recital in your right. You no longer need Okata's Recital to be equipped, but every time you go into combat now, tree rings will be cast freely and basically doubles our health pool at this point. We're also able to use Adric's Scepter effectively. This spell summons a Radiant Mace, which not only does fantastic damage, but also replenishes health on hit when fighting the undead. Between this and your mana being regenerated with Circle of Moons, now having double health, and not to mention all the other things within your arsenal that we already acquired, you should be able to take down this content with relative ease. Don't get too cocky, fight within choke points, maintain your resources, and keep on swinging that mace to get your health back. And maybe use fast healing if you really need to now and again, or if you already acquired Spell Twine and applied the heal to recuperate, you should have absolutely no issues bonk and bashing your way to the boss. Speaking of which, clear all the enemies that you can within this large room before triggering the boss. That way you can solely focus on him without unnecessary distractions chipping away at you, especially the archers. There's so many of them here. As for the boss, set up both circle spells, make sure tree rings and Adric's Scepter are freshly applied so that they don't run out mid-combat. Consecrate dead some mobs if you need to before starting the encounter, and start swinging. Keep pressuring the boss, try and bait him into a corner, use recuperate to get bursts of stamina and health back if you have Spell Twine, and just keep light attacking to replenish your health if need be. And this right here is why we chose Breton to start with. The 60% magic res and spell absorption is just coming in clutch. Keep on swinging, keep on healing, and the only thing that really is annoying is his dodge, so like I said, try and get him into a corner if you can. It can be tricky depending on what the AI does. Don't let him get range on you, and maintain your stamina, and you'll win the fight. But there you have it, at level 9 defeating a level 40 Bleak Falls Barrow Dragon Priest, and with that kill we progress to level 10. Our next milestone is level 25, as the Expert spell perk is level gated by this. You won't be able to get skills to 75 until then, so it's time to start boosting up one-handed and a little bit into enchanting, while also dipping into our other main skills, because they do still scale some of our abilities, like Spell Twine's heal is scaled by alteration skill level. Speaking of which, we're going to go and get our Adept Alteration perk now, and if you didn't buy Spell Twine from Tolfdir, you'll take this along with Open Adept Locks. Open Adept Locked is important for the next steps that we're going to do in our gearing process, so make sure you pick up this. If you already have Spell Twine, Bounce on Self is quite good. Take whatever you want as we step into our level 25 grind. It's time to get our mid to endgame gear. Yes, at level 10. We'll scour the land for the pieces of the Divine Crusader heavy armor and weaponry. Some of the pieces are tied to existing quests, and some are quite easy to just obtain. In hindsight, I didn't get the mace first and I regret it, so I'm going to show you how to get that first. Head to Winterhold and head to this location on the beach here, and you want to go down this path and round, because the other side has a ship with some giants that you don't want to mess with. Keep to this bit of the wall here and head up. There'll be 2 Thalma. Kill the Falmer and look for the flag. The shield and the mace is what we're here for, but the armor is a light armor set, so give that to a follow if you have one. We're going to go and get the gloves next. They're in the arse end of Riften at Stendar's Beacon. Kill the 2 Thalmer, and in the tower here there will be an altar. Took me a minute, so here's a better look of what they look like here. Head to Riften next, don't be a mug, and just climb through here instead of paying, because we won't be able to pass the speech check. We're here to go and pick up Inigo, good old friend of mine. We need him for his lockpicking skills for this particular section, and then we'll let him go afterward. Pick up the key, go to his cell, have a quick word with him, and then give him some lockpicks for our next section. We're going to head over to Markarth, specifically the Temple of Dibella. Now they won't let you in here, and we need to get into this door, and it's an expert lock. We can't open expert locks, but Inigo can. So we're going to ask him to do so, and then run straight down.
Okay, lead the way.
Whatever you do, don't start a fight down here, just do what they say, as we need the quest. Otherwise, not only will your deity forsake you, but you won't be able to get the helmet legitly here. Caution here, the quest is absolutely littered with tons of Forsworn. I had no issues at our current level clearing it. Just do everything that I've taught you already. Once you've got the girl, head back to hand in the reward, get a nice blessing from Dibella. Annoyingly, the room is locked again and you'll need Inigo to unlock it. Head back down to the downstairs area, and in this back room here is the helmet. The next bit is quite tricky because you've got a big fight on your hands. It's for the chest armor. Now this is at Northwatch Keep, which is here on the map, right at the top, quite close to where the vampire castle is. When you're outside the fort, I do recommend just putting a base camp down and then breaking the camp. This sets a spawn point, and once you slog your way through the entire fort, you'll see this guy here, summon some Atronachs. He can be quite tricky, just try and not get staggered. Make sure your recuperate heal is just doing the work, and try and clear him as quick as you can. Once he's out of the way, he should drop a key, but it doesn't seem to work on the actual door for the chest. But once it's done, you can use Open Adept Lock to get this open, and voila, you have your chest armor. The boots are from the Gildergleam questline. Go see Danica as she stood by the tree, ask her about the tree and trigger the quest. Follow the quest through and make sure you take this chap with you along the way so you can avoid a nasty fight with Springards and just take the boots at the base of the tree. Just a disclaimer, I did custom patch a replacer for the armor set, so this is what my Crusader armor looks like now. I know many of you might have asked this, but it does require custom patching, and I don't recommend modifying a 3,500 plus mod list unless you really know how to, and of course that does void support from the modlist author Biggie. But we take this armor set because of a couple of things: paralysis and disease immunity, and 32% restoration cost reduction. It's just insane, and the weapon's phenomenal as well. Last bit of prep is to go to Boulderfall Cave near Riften. Once we're here, head inside, kill a couple of necromancers, and then there should be a bookshelf with a novice spell, Equilibrium. This spell costs health in order to regain mana, but we can negate this using Recuperate, because Recuperate now has a heal over time with Spell Twine. You now have a way of infinitely generating all of your resources without any hindrance whatsoever. You still want to use Circle of Moons during combat, but this is an added bonus and works in tandem with everything. Up next, we're going for Ogma Infinium. This is a book that grants 7 skill points and 200 of any main stat attribute we choose, which in our case will be Magicka. To get this, however, we need to slog our way through 2 massive dungeons with several bosses, and it's a 2-part quest given to us by Septimus. Once you've picked it up, head over to the first dungeon, which is a Dwemer Ruin, which will be slogging it out with Centurions and Spiders. You'll notice that they do pack a punch, but it's nothing that we can't handle. As for our next level up, we're going to hit more Resto, Alteration, Heavy Armor, and we're going to get our one-handed to 50. Now we can get Armed Spellcasting, which is going to reduce our spell cost and give us more poise damage. Do you remember me telling you to take Featherfall? Yeah, well, this is why. Get ready to start swinging, because there's going to be a complete army of Falmer for you to fight here, but we're going to get a level just from this encounter alone. If your heal over time from Recuperate isn't enough, make sure that you fall back on fast healing as well, and just keep slogging it out. This level up, we're going to try and round out Alteration with Restoration and Heavy Armor, and of course we'll dump stat into Magicka, and then we're going to pick up Powerful Strike in the one-handed tree. Time to slog it out with the boss, which I'm sure will send you flying a fair few times. Just keep your heals up and dodge when you can. Eventually you will take him down, which then opens up the next area, which is a second dungeon. If you can call it a dungeon, it's more like the Underdark from D&D, and that is Blackreach. Get ready to have your butt firmly clenched as you immediately step into a Dwemer ambush with at least 6 Centurions and several Spiders, which lands us a very nice tasty level up, which we're going to push up our one-handed and enchanting, and then dump stat into Magicka. And it's now time to finally remove the power attack penalty with the combat training heavy armor perk. Now it's time to introduce your bonk stick to this Falmer's entire family tree as you make raspberry jam while laughing off all the poison these buggers are throwing at you. It's worth noting that if you weren't wearing the Crusader armor, you'd be constantly paralyzed by Falmer attacks by now. Unlucky for them, we've come prepared. Sadly, there is something I did forget to prepare for, and that was the Enchanted Sphere. You need shock in order to be able to stop the regen on this thing, and we don't have a shock mace right now. But you can bait it to open the door for you and then just heal and avoid it while you complete the puzzle, or just bring a shock mace in the first place and absolutely demolish it. Either way, follow through on Septimus's quests, and eventually you'll unlock the vault with our prize inside. Unfortunate for Septimus, he doesn't feel so good about it. As for our Paladin, well, we're about to feel great about it, as we read The Path of Magic, which gives us an extra 200 Magicka on top of 7 perk points to spend. For this I'm going to fast forward us to level 25. Just a disclaimer, you want around 4 or 5 perks in the bank saved for when you hit level 25, so you can take Scorching Light, Expert Restoration, and Expert Alteration, along with Combat Meditation, so that you have no penalty to your mana when casting Expert spells. From here in Heavy Armor, you just want to take every node that you can when you get the opportunity to do so. Prioritize some of the perks here first. Block's not essential, but I like to take those 2 points in block. And Stunning Blow and Powerful Charge are obviously no-brainers when you're using one-handed maces. You can also take Stability for some extra duration on alteration spells and spell cost with Metamagical Thesis. For resto spells at expert level, we're going to take Radiant Nova for some AoE damage, and Greater Fortify attributes we're going to pair with Okata's Recital to get our second stored spell. Now the reason we take Radiant Nova is for some much needed AoE like I said, and we're dealing damage to non-undead targets now thanks to Scorching Light. It can be particularly useful for engagements like this where you've been ambushed with tons of enemies and you need to clear the herd a little bit. Just make sure that you're managing your mana. As for Expert Alteration, we pick Deep Storage and Gravity Diamond. And why Gravity Diamond? Well, because we can prevent bosses from actually moving or turning around to be able to attack us, and in which case we can use this deadly combo here to whittle down their health. If you fought this boss in Lorerim before, then you'll know how much of a pain he can be. As for Deep Storage, this one's a bit self-explanatory. Basically, you have infinite storage, so if you ever want to pick up some armor or some loot, just simply cast a spell and put it in from your inventory into the Deep Storage container. It's essentially a true bag of holding. It's worth noting that you don't have to worship Stendarr, you could choose a different deity. Julianus is a great one for spell cost and spell power as bonuses, and Magnus for its huge spell cost reduction is also fantastic. But the Stendarr buff I just enjoy because it's thematic and also gives us a huge whopping resto buff for tree rings. We can double our health basically. As for the Destiny custom skill tree, something we haven't talked about yet, because mainly some of the nodes here are kind of just travel nodes until we get to Mage, Magic Shell, Spell Sword, Corrosive Weapon, and then Battle Mage finally. The other alternative is to go down the Archmage route, but I think the Battle Mage is better until we get to that level 50 mark. Speaking of level 50, let's talk about how the build transcends into the late game. You slogged your way through a Holy Warrior mace in hand and spell in the other type character, but once you hit Master Spells, well, things start to change.
Restoration is a perfectly valid school of magic, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
From a tanky brawler to a Jesus-beaming saint, we've traded the mace for a full-on offensive restoration magic build using Radiant Oppression. This is a found spell, you can't buy it as far as my knowledge is, but I did get it by level 50, and this thing does so much damage. It's my main skill basically. Look how much we shred Alduin here. Probably the rarest find is Wrath of the Heavens, which we can use to bombard large groups of enemies. Anything remotely near you will get struck by this spell over and over until the time's up. It also shotguns other projectiles on impact as well. Sadly, to my knowledge, this is only found on Dead Vigilance, but due to how absolutely bonkers this spell is, I'd say that it's alright being one of those rare chase items that you find at the endgame. Good luck getting this one, it's super fun, but also its range is kind of ridiculous, and sometimes you'll walk through a dungeon and everything will just be dead. Our main two master level spells we want active are Spirit of the Sun for insane AoE healing for almost 800 seconds, and God Form, which is our must-have. This gives us all the mana sustain that we need and will always be active as long as we have full health, and thanks to Spirit of the Sun, we should have that. If you were curious on the weird Halo thing, that's Sotha's Maelstrom, our master alteration pick, which is a spell that just reduces spell resistance to enemies and it gradually gets stronger and stronger. Here's an example of me at Skuldarten trying to clear all the hordes. This is everything that I've just discussed all working together in tandem. Look at my regen of my mana. We're still using Recuperate for our stamina regen, but honestly things die so quickly we don't really worry too much about it. Radiant Oppression does so well at killing dragons that sometimes their dragons will go into negative health, which just looks like they're healing as well. Speaking of health, we can scale this incredibly high using the Divinity buff from Stendarr's Devotion, plus master spells such as Worm Shroud and King's Heart, which both grant spell magnitude and bolster your resto spells. We've even scaled high enough to get over 1000 health without any health stacking whatsoever in attributes at all. You can buy both of these from the resto teacher at the college once you've done her quest. Another one that you can purchase from her is Solar Vortex. This is basically the poor man's Radiant Oppression. I find Radiant Oppression to be way more consistent and stronger in damage, but this does a very similar thing. It's another Jesus Beam, does a lot of damage, but not quite as good as Radiant Oppression. Radiant Nova is still a solid option to clear out hordes of enemies that are close to you, and I think Radiant Nova might just be the staple of this build. It's so strong, it's great for ad clear, and it fits into that Paladin playstyle just really well. Just a quick perk tree check. We've finished what we need to in Resto. Alteration, we could flesh out more if we really wanted to, but I'm happy where it's at. Enchanting for a little bit more mana on your kit. Heavy armor we fill out completely. Block, I took this defensive stance node so that I could run faster while blocking, but now that we're fully spelled, if you get to this point without those nodes, I won't even bother taking them at this point. One-handed is kind of retired also at the late game. I did pick up these Wayfarer nodes just for a bit of extra magic res flat, and the regen we don't really care about, but I wanted to get this movement node next. And eventually we'll get that one-man legion if we continue this character much further, because honestly we're so strong. But if you want to go into shouts, obviously take the right side of the speech tree if you got leftover perks. Honestly, you're strong enough for most content, and anything else now is just you RPing as a Dragonborn, because you really don't need them, but you know, go for it if you wanna. Last thing that you can do to really maximize on your spells is swap from Battle Mage to Archmage. Now there's a few nodes in either tree that basically don't really affect our build because we don't have any regen. Once you go to this Magicka Surge node, that's going to do nothing for us because we're using Atronach. Because we don't really melee anymore because our sustain for mana is so good, getting extra spell stuff is just way stronger. And that's about it for this video. Good luck on your Paladin journey. Please do let me know how you get on in the comment section down below. I did turn down a sponsorship over this video because I wanted it to be just purely about the information to help you guys. So like, subscribe and comment. That's it from me now. Ciao for now.